Hi folks, it's Brad. I'm back from a weekend in Akron and Cleveland, Ohio. How you doing? Before I get started, a couple of things. We are having a retreat at the Mount Baldy Zen Center, October 26th through 28th. That's next weekend, and y'all are invited. Please come. We try to keep these things small, but we've still got some space open for more people, and we'd like to have you there. It's a great place to get away from all the stuff, because you'll be far away, just meditating, and we are an easy peasy Zen retreat. I guarantee you won't find one that has a better balance of being really serious but being very sort of beginner friendly. So be there for that. Point number 2 is we're getting evicted. The Angel City Zen Center, which I just set up 2 years ago in Echo Park over there, I'm pointing towards Echo Park. We're getting evicted out of the place. In the state of California, it's very difficult for anybody to evict you from a place you're dwelling in or whatever. But if the landlord wants to go live there again, they are in their rights to tell you to get out, and that's what happened to us. So we're now looking for a new place. We have no idea right now what we're going to do. We just got this news like a week and a half ago, and we're scrambling to find something. So I don't know, if somebody's a rich person with a house to donate or something in Los Angeles, please give me a call. There'll be info on how to contact me there. If you want to come and live at the Angel City Zen Center, also talk to me about that, because one of our ideas is to get about 10 people together and thereby kind of reduce the overall rent for the place by having 10 residents in the space. So please hook me up if you want to come and live at the Angel City Zen Center, because we'd love to have you. But now on to the topic at hand. When I was in Ohio last week, I gave a talk for the Crooked River Zen Center on Friday, which is, it's Wednesday now, so Friday, whatever days ago that was. So pretty recent. And the format of the talk was Dean, the guy who runs that center, kind of asked me questions on behalf of the audience who was there. And it seemed like, I don't know, there's going to be a podcast up from them pretty soon of the whole talk, so you'll be able to hear it if you want. But it just seemed to me from where I sat that like a third of the questions were about politics and how to deal with politics and the Zen way of dealing with politics. Now, I can't give you any official Zen way of dealing with politics, but I think what the problem was is people having like conflicts among friends and coworkers and family and stuff, and getting kind of upset about the way things are and trying to manage that. So I'd like to try to address that right here. Now, one of my favorite quotes came from Ian MacKaye, who's the leader of Minor Threat and Fugazi and whatever his new band is now. But Minor Threat's the one I know, because Zero Defects, who I played with last Saturday, our main influence was Minor Threat. When we started, we were kind of like baby Minor Threat. So Minor Threat was a big deal for us. And Ian MacKaye was interviewed right after Trump got elected, and he said this: "I was trying to think of an illustration of how one might think about this election, or how I've thought about this election. I had this sort of vision of being on a boat that you have no control over. You're just a passenger. It comes to your attention that there's this vicious fist fight up at the helm between two people who are trying to get hold of the steering wheel. They're both trying to be captain. They have very different ideas about which way they want to steer, although ultimately I think both of these captains have self-serving strategies. You wake up to discover that the one who's steering in the direction you really didn't want to go in ended up winning the fight. But maybe something to think about is that regardless of the steering, there is a greater current at play. These people steer the boat wherever they want to go, but the current moves in a direction that is beyond their power. It might take us longer to get there, but I feel like that is a current of progression." And that's the way I generally feel about it. I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, as I've said, how many times have I said it? Maybe if somebody can send me in a count, it must be close to 20 or so times on this YouTube thing alone. And I've said it in blogs and everywhere else too. So I was dismayed when Trump got elected. The first thing I did when he got elected was send out a tweet that said the KKK took my country away, a reference to the Ramones song, the KKK took my baby away, because that's how I felt. But after looking at it and kind of steeping myself in it for 2 years, I've come to the conclusion that Trump is exactly what he looks like. He's a big, blowhard businessman, a rich dude who has no business being the president of the country yet, who somehow blagged his way in, to use probably improperly a British expression, to the presidency of the United States, and now he's in charge, large and in charge. He doesn't have nearly as much power as people think he has, and really karma, the current that Ian MacKaye talks about, is decisive. It matters a little who's president. I won't say it doesn't matter at all, but it can't stop the current from going the way it's going, and it's going to go that way regardless. So, he may be able to slow things down. He may be able to put us in a little detour that's going to cost us some time and make some more effort necessary to recorrect everything. But he's not going to wreck the whole thing. He's not Adolf Hitler and all this other junk that people say he is. The other problem is the news media right now is completely beholden to popularity. There was a time, I don't think the news media has ever been completely unbiased or anything, but there was a time when it was much less biased because it wasn't in their interest to be biased, because you had small numbers of newspapers or news networks, television networks, who had to cater to a large society, and they had to take into account everybody's opinion. Now everything is narrow-casted to very small segments of the population who just want to hear exactly what they want to hear, and so that's what you get. You get a completely biased version of whatever news you choose to get. I mean, you get the basic facts, but then all the opinion and spin is off in the twilight zone these days. And most of what people are saying is bullshit. Maybe it always has been, but when people start spewing their opinions, it's bullshit, and there's so much hype for everything. Everything has to be the biggest. Democracy is at stake, every goddamn day. Democracy is at stake, and democracy isn't at stake. It's just bullshit they feed you to keep you clicking on and liking and subscribing and sharing. It's just nonsense. There's nothing to it. The other thing is, you don't need all that information. Nobody needed to sit and watch 9 hours of the Brett Kavanaugh hearings. You could just get the summation afterwards and know everything that was important. But there's people glued to it like it's a fucking game, And just like going to a game, you can sit up there in the stands and go, hey batta, hey batta, hey batta, hey batta, hey batta, and you can root for whoever you want, and you can fly your flags and wear your team colors and whatnot. But that isn't going to make a huge difference to what's going on the playing field. And most of it is just a waste of energy. So a lot of it you can just walk away from. A lot of these conflicts you think you got to engage in, you can just walk away from them. It doesn't matter that much. That's what I think. That's how I deal with it. And I just sit and I meditate, and you go, oh, you're hiding from it. I'm not hiding from it. I'm pretty well informed. I've made comments that people have made fun of, saying I'm not that well informed. I mean, I don't know every bit of minutia that goes on, but I kind of follow the rough things. And there's a few things that worry me. I'm worried if we're going to hit a big civil war over this stuff. And I don't like the way the Brett Kavanaugh hearings went, by the way, in case you wondered. But, it's not going to change the shape of America having him on the justice bench. It'll just make things a little bit more conservative as things go along. It isn't the death of all that is good and right. These things are just totally exaggerated. So take it all with a grain of salt and just kind of watch it go on, and know that the progress of things is going to go the way it goes, no matter what anybody tries to do about it. It's all the summation of how you and I act. And your action right now in this present moment has a huge, huge effect. And what I mean by that is you're going crazy in your personal life is part of the whole thing going crazy. So if you want things to be a little less crazy, find a way for you to be a little less crazy and to treat people in a calm, measured manner. And if it looks like there's going to be a conflict, walk away from it. Dogen says this in his own writings. He says even if you know you're right, it's often much better not to argue. You don't have to concede a point where you know you're actually correct, but not having the argument is helpful. So don't get into those arguments, is my advice. Most of them are not worth having. So there you go. There's my advice on politics. And speaking of advice, if you'd like some advice on how to help me out, you can use the links that are below to Patreon and PayPal. That's how I make my living. I made a little bit of money in Cleveland last weekend, zero money with the Zero Defects show, which is typical, and I had to spend a bunch to get out there and stuff. So most of what I get comes from you guys donating dollars and $5 and $10 and $50 or whatever you get from Patreon and PayPal. So thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. Sorry I haven't written back to everybody thanking them, but thank you right now from the bottom of my heart to the bottom of your heart. See you later.